Hi, my name is Campbell X. I am a writer, director, and I made a feature film called Stud Life, which was released in 2012. It's a story about friendship. It's a story about platonic friendship amongst queer people and also a little romance on the side. It stars Tania Miller, who you might know from Years and Years and Bly Manor. Robin Kerr, Simon Savory, and Kyle Treslov. And it was voted by The Guardian as one of the top 10 Black British films ever made, which was a pleasant surprise for me. And it also won the Screen Nation Independent Spirit Film Production Award in 2013. So that's a bit of an introduction to me. In terms of narrative writing, I also directed a documentary called Visible, which is about reclaiming queer people of colour history in the UK. Another experimental film called Desire about the kind of jazz meditation on the desirability of masculinity when people are assigned female at birth. So trans men, non-binary people, butchers, studs. And I also worked as a director for the web series Different for Girls and co-directed the web series Spectrum London. How I'd like to run this is a sort of call and response. So I'm going to say something, and I hope that you can respond in the chat or in the Q&A section of it. So it's a little bit more interactive. So it's not like just me talking. I'm not the voice of authority. I have my own particular experiences that I bring and I share, but I also believe all our experiences are equally important and all our skills are important here. So the first question I want to know is why you're here. So please put that in the chat. Let me know why you're here, what you want to gain from today, because then it would help me to help you, like in Jerry Maguire. Who inspires you? So it will be interesting to find who inspires you, because how I work is in an organic way, and I draw kind of energy and power from people all around me who then give me courage to make the work that I do. So often the people who inspire me are people who challenge the status quo, people who are brave enough to stand up for the rights of other people, stand up for their own rights, and who live their authentic lives. So I'm just going to share with you some of the people who inspire me, but please put in the chat people who inspire you, and then we can read them out, okay? So the first person is Miss Kimberly, who's an actress and a singer. And Miss Kimberly, I met some years ago. She's also in Stud Life, which I was really privileged that she agreed to be in it, like all the people who came to the film, really. And she has managed to kind of be a pioneer. Like, I didn't realize when I met her that she'd already acted in things like EastEnders and, soaps that I hadn't realized that she'd done. And it kind of shows you that, trans women actresses have been around in the UK for a while, even though we tend to always lean to the USA. And I think it's really important we honor people in the UK who are also pioneers and who've also laid down paths for us all to work in film and TV. Kimberly also has an event called and a fashion show called Life, Miss Kimberly's Life, which is trans-centered a fashion show which has all body types, all genders and all abilities on the catwalk, and I was privileged to have been part of that, and it was really amazing. The next person is Travis Alabanza, who's a writer, activist, and performance artist. And I've put all the social media handles so you can follow them as well. Travis is a femme, and and also trans. And whenever I see Travis perform, I am just so incredibly moved by their resilience, to be honest, in spite of kind of systemic prejudices and weights down on them, that they manage to create beautiful art out of struggle, really. So Travis is another of person that inspires me. This is kind of like a recent inspiration. I don't know their names. Lene Vinay is what they have on their Instagram handle, and they are a poet, educator, and photographer. But what I really like about Lene is that they managed to fill a lot of information and education around politics, government, ways of being in such a creative way. It's incredible. In like 3 minutes, managed to give you a history of redlining or the political system in the USA, all in a humorous, like, amazing way. And I'm all about accessibility, and to make kind of really dry topics seem interesting and engaging takes some skill and talent. So Lene is like a recent addition to my inspirational list. And last but not least is the most wonderful Jane Fonda, who is like the OG of inspirations, because I don't think she needs an introduction. She acknowledges her privilege and her white privilege, which enabled her, her class privilege and wealth, and also her race privilege, which enabled her to stand up against systems from very early on. So she was one of the supporters of the Black Panther movement by donating to them back in the day. Also back in the day, in the 60s and the 70s, she was an active promoter of LGBTQ rights and outspoken in that way. And now she is a climate change activist and puts her body on the line to be arrested. So, she has stood out, and she was anti-Vietnam War as well and got vilified for it. So, all the people who inspire me are people who stood up and said, this is me, take it or leave it. And I really admire that. So my passions drive the work that I do, because making films takes a long time, and to get finance for a film takes a long time. So, I feel as if I'm not passionate about what I'm doing, or I don't feel like I love what I'm doing, then it would feel like a horrible burden for me in my creativity and trying to make films. So these things come well up inside me to create a burning desire for me to make a film about X, and that burning desire drives me through the whole process from beginning to the end, and brings people to me who also feel passionate about it and share my passions as well, and want to help to make the best film that we can all possibly make, because, as you know, filmmaking is a collaboration. So drop your passions in the chat, because those are the things that will drive you and will make you feel, yeah, I really want to write about this, or I really want to make a film about this, or I really want to do a project on this. So Obviously, one of my passions is cinema. I love cinema. I love watching it. I watch as much as I can. Obviously, under the pandemic, it's been like what's kept us going, but I have to really limit my screen time as well, because then we spend so much time in front of the screen. So that's an issue now, which wasn't an issue before. This film has come out. So Malcolm and Marie is going to be on Netflix. I thought it was a tremendous film about relationships and intimacy and the things people say behind closed doors. I thought it was really honest and quite brutal, actually. It'd be interesting to hear what you all think about it. I'm very interested in queer Black British history because I think as we speak English and the other culture that has a lot of Black people in it is America, the USA, we tend to get dominated by Black American history, and that becomes as if it's our history. Obviously, we are in a diaspora and we do share things in common with Black Americans and African Americans. However, they're very distinct differences. Like in Britain, Black people come from, the African continent. They also come from South America. They come from other European cultures and also the Caribbean. And this guy, Berto Pasuka, was out. He came from Jamaica. He was out in the 1940s, which people sometimes can't imagine because, there's this idea that Black people who were queer didn't exist in the past or even in the present because, we don't see ourselves a lot. We don't see, ourselves represented in mainstream film or TV. And he co-founded this ballet group called Ballet Negre, which used a lot of African influenced dance style. A film by Steve Dworskin, which I think is on the BFI player, called Ballet Black, is all about him as well. So you can see the story of Ballet Negre. And I love this picture of him as well. If you Google him, you'll see some really cool pictures of Berto Pasuka, which were taken in the 40s and are very homoerotic as well. So it's like, wow, to do that then, and we think we're in 2021, where's our visibility? And he was visible then. Sex positive queer culture is also what drives me. And I like to refer to past things because a lot of times we think we're only liberated because we're now in post Stonewall, post making gay men's sex legal in the UK, post the abolition of Section 28. We think we are the liberated ones, but actually love has no timeline and desire has no timeline. And recently they found some drawings done by Duncan Grant, who was one of the Bloomsbury set. And he made erotic drawings to share with his friends in the 1940s and 1950s. They were found and are now in an archive, and this is one of the pictures. The drawings are held in Charleston, Grant's former home in Lewis. And I think what's incredible is that there are men of different ethnicities. Duncan Grant's lover was a Jamaican called Patrick Nelson, who was also out to his parents, his Jamaican parents, because his father instructed Duncan Grant to deliver goods to him while he was in the army. So they weren't in the closet with their significant families at all, which is interesting considering that was, the 40s. So let's talk about the kinds of stories that I tell. I usually, this is a still from Stud Life, and this is Kyle Treslov lying on the grass, taken by Paula Harrowing. I make films about like outsiders, weirdos, and misfits, which are kind of the complexities of not fitting in. Because I don't feel as if I fit in, I suppose, and I'm always attracted to people who stand outside the status quo, like the people that I spoke to you about, that I admire. So here's another still from Stud Life with Robin Kerr and Tania Miller as JJ and L. The areas that I explore are friendship, love, desire, intimacy, and the complexities around that. Because I just think, telling queer stories, sometimes we're forced to tell stories that are kind of one-dimensional to make ourselves look amazing, because we face homophobia, lesbophobia, transphobia, and all the intersections of misogyny, able-bodyism, classism, those kind of things, intersect with all our complex identities, on top of the fact that we have to negotiate lives within a world that doesn't center us. And so I'm very interested in exploring how queer people navigate lives after they've come out. Coming out stories are great because, in a way, we always come out. There's not a one-time event of coming out. Coming out happens all through our lives. So I'm not really disparaging about coming out films. It's just that the things that coming out films never acknowledge is that it's not a one-time event. And so it makes it seem as if there's this big coming out thing and then your life is like fine after you've come out. And as we know, our lives just begin to have a different texture once you've decided for yourself that you want to live your authentic lives. And it's at that point that I want to tell stories about who do we love, how do we love each other, how do we manage with the different bodies that we have, how do we manage with the different ways we look at our body in terms of gender, in terms of our identities, how do we fit into the world outside of us? And so those things drive me to tell stories. And how do we deal with trauma? How do we deal with things that might have affected us when we were very young? And how does that impact on our sexuality and our behaviors? So the stories that I want to explore are how our previous experiences as before we came out, or formative years, the way we loved before, the way we love now, the way we work, the way we interact with the world around us, how they affect us, obviously in a story form, in a way that's engaging, in a way that's interesting for audiences. Because primarily when I make films, I make them for somebody that's not me. And how do I tell these stories? I use different forms. So, for instance, I work in episodic TV. So I worked with Monica YD, who produced Spectrum London, which was a trans-centric web series set in London, predominantly featuring people of color, which is very unusual. And it's amazing that Monica managed to pull that off, because that required a lot of work. I came in as a co-director. It was written by Jake Graff, and has a largely trans cast, including Jake, Miss Kimberly, Elliot Sailors, Nashon Valentino. So these are people who participated in it. And here's a clip of Spectrum London.
Well, if you backed off a bit, give them some fucking space, you'd get your money a lot faster, wouldn't you?
Did I do a good job?
Fine. You ready?
Told you I'll find you. Little boy come hide out in London. You gonna do right by my sister? Yes. Yeah. Well, you thought you were just gonna hit it and cut out. You're a puss. You ghosted on that job. You ghosted on me. You ain't gonna ghost on my sister.
I don't want to. I want to be there for the kid.
So why'd you run away, Sean?
Because
You got no balls, bruv! So everyone's right. You're fucking slag. Cause it sure as fuck ain't his.
What the fuck?
Oh,
The fuck?
what fuck?
Oh my god.
shit. So you'll stay?
Yeah, I'll stay. I don't want to go back home right now anyway.
Look, I promise I'll look after you, yeah?
No! They were shagging, okay? Don't fucking tell me to go.
Okay, but no! Just wait. Sam!
There's a lot of shit going on everywhere, yeah? Let's just stick together, alright? Girl, every time I look in your eyes, I see a reflection of a love that's mine.
Aisha. 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 I also directed the web series Different for Girls, which was written by Jackie Lawrence and produced by Fizz Milton. And it was a kind of attempt to be like a British L Word. So the production values, you know, with Spectrum London, that was really DIY, you know, and kind of wonderful to work and, you know, do guerrilla filmmaking and, you know, be in it, you know, very fluid. Different for Girls was much more along the lines of shooting something for mainstream TV and has a mainstream TV look. And it's about lives of people in West London who are lesbian, gay, who have children. So it's beyond coming out, is when people decide to form families and the challenges that raises for LGBT people forming families. The crew was trans inclusive, and the cast was trans inclusive as well. So Jake Graff was acting in it, and he plays a cis gay guy. So, and there, you know, there was a mixture of like LGBT people in the cast and crew. And here's a clip from Different for Girls, in which there's a fight between two ex-couples.
Okay, we're looking for number 10. Okay.
Mama. Mama.
Slumming it, I see.
It's not for me, it's for the kids.
You're really suffering for your sins, aren't you?
Can we not? right now, babe?
This is a great place for a holiday.
This isn't for holiday, not for Mama or Mummy.
You could say that again.
But I thought you were only here on holidays, Mama.
No, I'm gonna be living here all the time. And you are gonna live with Mummy in the other house.
But why?
Because you will get to come here for lots of little holidays, and we'll see each other loads, and we'll have so much fun.
Can we go upstairs? Yes, can we see your bedroom?
Yes, absolutely. She just came over to talk. We didn't...
I directed, as I said at the very beginning, the award-winning feature film Stud Life, which is distributed by Peccadillo Pictures, and on their Vimeo platform, it's available worldwide. It was on Netflix USA for a number of years. Obviously, you only get like a window with Netflix, but I was chuffed that it was on Netflix, I tell you. At the time, though, being on Netflix wasn't considered a coup. Now people are like, oh my God, it was on Netflix. But then, you know, it's interesting how our world has shifted more to the kind of streaming platform than before. So that was made through crowdfunding, and it was written and directed by myself with a trans and queer and diverse crew and cast. And the one of the producers was Stella Nwimo, who I've continued to work with, Nadia Kassam, and Lulu Bellevue. And Lulu was really instrumental in getting some of the props, like some of the classic things like Quim magazine, which she co-founded. The artwork that's on the walls, like from Della Grace Volcano, who's a trans intersex artist. So it was really a community effort, and in that film is an archive of queer life within the props and within the books that are there. So if you look deeply or in a detailed way, there are little clues to our lives which I've left for posterity and for generations to come.
Right. Fuck you, blood man.
They don't understand us when we speak in slang like this. Get me, brethren, cuz, brethren, brother, brethren, safe, brethren, you get me, brethren, cuz, brethren, brother, brethren.
That's Seb, my brethren. Why am I so tight with a gay man? Well, if I was tight with a femme, it might get kind of complicated. All right, so some of you all thinking right now, that's just ridiculous. I should be able to control myself, innit? Yeah? If you feel safe, send your girl to me, innit? Then we can do a little scientific experiment. I guess the rest of you all thinking, how come she ain't hanging out with a stud? Well, if I was hanging out with a stud, I mean someone like me, I'd be checking the same talent. No. I can't have someone messing with my flow like that. And straight men, yeah, right, whatever. All round safer, stick with the faggots. Plus, besides, I love him.
I made a documentary, Visible, which was produced by Kaiser Rose, and in which artists, activists, archivists talk about and explore why it is that QTPOC lives, queer, trans, intersex, people of colour, in the UK, our lives are so invisible historically and contemporary-wise. So it's a documentary that attempts to understand, even though we belong to a diaspora which is African and USA based, we also really belong to the UK, and how we can find out a bit more about our history here.
When we look at people of colour, artists and other people who have done really amazing things, their sexuality is often overwritten.
We're trying to find ourselves.
Where do I find these stories? Where are these people in the archives?
It's very rare that black queers appear within the national narrative.
You'll be surprised by the truths that I hidden, cause it comes to the light when you start digging.
It's so important to be able to see people who look like you taking up space.
I hope my work is allowing to complicate that narrative of what it means to be trans, what it means to be feminine.
We created these families, these communities.
It's really beautiful, and it's like a statement of identity and expression and like a resistance, I suppose.
Pleasure, desire, aspirations, play, celebration.
We're here and we're real.
Nobody can now say that there is no black queer history in the context of the UK, because then now I can say you haven't done your homework.
Here's a still of Peggy Shaw, who's a legend, and I adore her, and she is part of a half of our Split Britches, a lesbian feminist performance theatre group, and the other half is Lois Weaver, who is also incredible, and she took part in the experimental jazz meditation that I described to you before, called Desire, and I'm just going to show you a little clip of it about, just a tiny clip about what that desire for AFAB masculinity feels like for the people who do desire us and them, and it's from people who are themselves masculine, trans, or some cis femme self-defined women. So here's the clip.
The alchemy of sort of hips and shoulders, a way of holding a body that is in conflict with how it should be held. It has less fear in it than how a feminine or straight woman carries themselves. But it's funny because they are micro movements. It's like Braille. So you have enough of them together, 2 or 3, and you know.
The way I touch another butch is very different from how femmes touch me. That's just an aesthetic that just appeals to me.
But the hottest men, women, whatever, are the ones that when they look at you, they're telling you with their eyes that they know how to make you come. It's as if, with the eyes, it's looking into me and knowing something about me that nobody else knows. It's alchemy. It's not definable. It's not put downable. It's an energy between people. And that's the sexiness.
I look at a butch woman and I just think,
I could be quite explicit. They will know how to do me, basically. I like that. It really turns me on. I think that person's going to know how to handle their cock.
Who finances my work? Yes, big question. Who gives me money to make my work? And I get money from private investment. So Stud Life was made by crowdfunding and private investment. So, you know, crowdfunding got me to the shoot stage. And then when people saw the footage, they felt more able to put some money in after. I get grants. I apply for grants to fund my films. And I also put my own money in my films because I think if I don't believe in myself, who will? And, you know, I think that's important for us all to step up to our art, and in making our art, make it, you know, especially if you're doing something that's not considered trendy or not considered mainstream enough, or might be on the sex positive side. If we don't make things, they won't be made. So I think the onus is on us to, unfortunately, have the burden of representation, but I think it's important that we put the work out there as artists. What's my process? Usually I pick a team and I work with people's strengths, because I think filmmaking is really stressful, and it helps that people feel comfortable and supported to work to their strengths. I think filmmaking is a collaborative process. It's not like I'm the big I am. You know, obviously you've got to take charge on the set. Somebody's got to literally call the shots. But it doesn't mean once I'm on the set that I haven't drawn from a collaborative process along the way with people. So even when I'm writing, that's a collaborative process with my producer. And the feature film that I'm working on at the moment, I'm working with 2 other writers. The producer gives notes, the people who might be potential financiers give notes. It's all like, it's a lot of notes, to be honest. Yeah, notes. It seems like my life is full of notes, but some notes are helpful, some notes are rubbish. And it's like finding the difference between that, and that's a skill in itself. I think it's important to feed people. Oh boy, you know, a lot of people get hangry if they're not fed properly. And to be inclusive and diverse when making a film, in the process along the way. So it isn't just having the bodies, but also having the thoughts when you're writing. Why am I writing this character? Why has this character got this identity? Why are they black? Why are they a man? You know, why are they able-bodied or disabled? Can I make them something else? You know, would it be more interesting if this person were straight? Would it be more interested in this person were non-binary? How can I make this actually inclusive? And what does it mean? Because having the person doesn't necessarily mean that it's inclusive. So I put a non-binary person in, bam. Yeah, I put them in, but I have to do the research to find out, how does a non-binary person interact in this situation to make it feel authentic, rather than just ticking a box in order to perform inclusivity and diversity. So we can talk a little bit more about that after, but I feel really strongly about that, because I think a lot of times we see characters that are there, like I see it on TV, I'm like, I know they put this black person there as a ticky box thing, because you know what? Black people do not sit on beds in their clothes. The end. We just don't. We just don't. So that to me means you haven't done the research about how we negotiate our lives in the real world and then look real on the TV when I'm watching it. So that's me. And I'm open to questions about my work, my process. I'm at Campbell X on Insta, on Twitter. I have a big mouth because I remember what Audre Lorde said, your silence will not protect you. Thank you very much. Here's time for questions.